Salvete discipuli et discipuli. This video is going to be an overview of Latin for the New Millennium, Volume 1. We're going to attack each part of speech separately, and we are going to start our review of Volume 1 of Latin for the New Millennium with nouns. Okay, so just a little bit of a review on what nouns are. Part of speech is a person, place, thing, idea, generally. In Latin, nouns tend to have three characteristics, okay? They have gender, so they can be either masculine, feminine, or neuter. They have number, meaning they're either singular or plural. And they have case, meaning they're one of the following 6 cases: nominative, genitive, dative, accusative, ablative, and vocative. Now, we're going to review the cases at the end of this noun portion of the review. It'll be the last thing we do before adjectives. In addition, Latin nouns fall into one of 5 patterns of endings called declensions, okay? You can always tell what declension a noun is in based on the genitive singular of the noun. All first declension nouns end in AE in the genitive singular. All second declension nouns end in E. All third end in is. All fourth end in us. All fifth end in AE. Okay, so I, E, is, us, AE. Okay. Now, in order for you to know what declension a noun is in, you have to know the noun's dictionary entry. So when you learn new nouns, or when you review old nouns, you look at the dictionary entry for nouns. So that would be the nominative singular, the genitive singular, and the gender. That's all the information you need to be able to fully decline that noun. I've given you a couple of examples. Terra terrae, which is feminine. That's obviously first declension because its genitive and singular ends in AE. Amicus amici, masculine, second. Filius filii, masculine, second. Puer pueri, masculine, second. Bellum belli, neuter, but also second because of that long I ending in its genitive singular. Passer passeris, masculine. This is tells us that it is a third declension noun. Pax pacus, feminine, third. Tempus temporis is neuter and third. Tumultus tumultus, masculine, fourth because of that us ending. Cornu cornus, neuter, but also fourth. Res rei, feminine, obviously fifth because of its EI ending in the genitive, singular. And dies diei, masculine, fifth. Now, the other piece of information you need before you can, or I should say, I suppose the first piece of information you need before you can decline a Latin noun is you need to know its noun base. And that is the base onto which you're going to put all of the endings in any given declension, okay, in a noun pattern. To get the noun base, you remove the ending from the genitive singular. So I have given you all of the noun bases, there we go, for the dictionary entries that we looked at above. Now, once you have that noun base, you put these declension endings on it, and that's how you decline a Latin noun. So easy. Here are the first declension endings. These are the second declension masculine endings. The only thing about the second declension masculine we have to be particularly careful of is what its vocative ending is going to be, okay? If a nominative second declension masculine ends in US, the nominative ends in E. If it ends in IUS, like filius, its vocative is a single long I. And if it ends in an R in the nominative, its vocative ends in an R in the singular. In the plural, the nominative and the vocative are the same, just like for all the other declensions. Now, second declension has a neuter gender. And if you have a second declension neuter noun, its declension, its pattern of endings is going to be a little bit different from the masculine. That is because of something known as the neuter law. The neuter law states that whatever the ending for a neuter noun in the nominative is, that's going to be the same ending in the accusative. So The ending for a neuter second declension nominative is um, and the accusative is singular, and the plural it's an a. Okay. Now I'm going through and showing you some paradigms or examples, okay, of how these nouns decline. For the first declension, terra, terrae is our example. We get our noun base by taking off that ae ending, which gives us the noun base ter. And then that's the base onto which we're going to add all of these endings. Terra, terrae, terrae, terram, terra, terra. Terrae, terrarum, terris, terras, terris, terrae. Okay? I've also gone through and shown you how to translate any of these nouns based on their case, okay? And that'll make more sense when we go over and review the uses of the cases. So for example, genitive tells us possession, so it usually translates of the land or lands with an apostrophe s. Dative is indirect object, so it's to or for the land. Ablative has all those different ablative uses, so they usually translate by, with, or from the land, something like that. And vocative, since it's an address, is O land. I give you an example, a paradigm of a second declension masculine. You'll notice that it ends in a US in the nominative, therefore it ends in E in the vocative. So amicus, amici, amico, amicum, amico, amica. Amica is how you say, oh friend. And then also in the plural. I'm also giving you an example of a second declension masculine, filius, filii, because I want you to see that vocative ending, okay? Filius, filii, filio, filium, filio, right? All using the noun base plus the second declension endings. But then the vocative is a single long I. So if you want to say, oh son, you would say fili, okay? Some second declension masculine nouns end in an R in the nominative. If it does, its vocative ends in an R as well. Okay? And then, of course, here is an example of a second declension neuter, and you'll notice the slight difference between the second declension masculine and neuter, specifically here in the plural, bella, the wars, right? Okay. Here are the endings for third declension masculine feminine, third declension neuter, and then the subset of third declension nouns, which are I stems. We will talk a little bit more about I stems in a couple of slides. Okay, so our first example, our first paradigm of the third declension, passer, passerus, masculine, it means a sparrow. We have our noun base passer, onto which we add our third declension endings, okay? Our another example is a feminine third declension noun, pax, pacus. Now this is where it's really important that you remember that you get the noun base from the genitive form, because the nominative is pax, but the genitive is pacus with that C, and that's what gives us our noun base. So all those other endings, paki, pakem, pake, they're all going to be applied to the noun base with the C at the end. And then we also, of course, have a third declension neuter. Remember, third declension neuters follow the neuter law. So whatever the nominative ending or form is, that's what the accusative is going to be as well. Okay. Now, I stems, a certain subset of third declension nouns are going to be what are called I stems. There are two rules that will apply to masculine or feminine third declension nouns, and one rule that will apply to neuters. If a masculine or feminine third declension noun fulfills one of the following rules, it will be an I stem. So the one rule that it can follow is that the nominative singular and the genitive singular have the same number of syllables. For example, kiwis, 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 or nubes, nubes, okay? So if you have a word like this, you have a third declension I stem. The other rule that can make a masculine or feminine third declension noun an I stem is if the nominative singular ends in S or X and the noun base ends in two consonants. So for example, erps, erbus, the nominative ends in an S, and if we take the genitive ending off, the IS off of erbus, Our noun base ends in two consonants, R and B. Okay. Same with R's, artists. Okay. A third declension neuter noun will be an I stem if its nominative singular ends in AL, AR, or E. Pretty straightforward rule, actually. So animal ends in AL. So animal, animalis, neuter, I stem. Mare, maris, neuter, I stem. And then I go through and show you how to decline third declension I stems. The masculine feminine is exemplified here with kiwis, kiwis, and the neuter with animal, animalis. So make sure you're getting all of these endings and paradigms examples down, so that you have very complete notes as we move on with Latin for the New Millennium Volume 2. Okay, our last three declensions, or excuse me, the last two declensions, our last three charts, we have the fourth declension, has masculine and feminine nouns. This is the pattern that they will follow. There are also fourth declension neuters, which have a slightly different declension, as you can see. And then the fifth declension, here are its endings. The majority of fifth declension nouns are going to be feminine. The most important masculine one is going to be dies, the word for day. Okay. All right. So here is an example of a fourth declension masculine, tumultus, tumultus. Okay. And a fourth declension neuter. Ignore that. That should say neuter. Cornu, cornus. And then we have an example of the fifth declension. This one is feminine, res rei, a matter or an affair. Here is its paradigm. And there you go. The last thing I want to say about nouns is that each of the cases tells you how any given noun is functioning in the sentence. Okay? So if you have a noun in the nominative, that is telling you that that noun is functioning either as a subject or a predicate nominative. The genitive tells you possession or partitive genitive or objective genitive. Dative, indirect object, or dative of possession. Accusative, so far, can be used as a direct object, accusative of place to which, or the subject and indirect statement. Ablative can be one of the following six for right now, because there are many more than just these six. Agent, manner, instrument or means, separation, place where, or place from which, and then vocatives are used to show address. Okay. Now you can't talk about nouns without talking about adjectives, because of course adjectives are words that describe nouns. In Latin, the adjective must agree with the noun that it's describing in gender, number, and case, not in declension. Gender, number, and case. So what that means is that any declension adjective can describe any declension noun. They just have to be in the same gender, number, and case, okay? To decline an adjective, you need to attach the endings to the adjective base, and you get that from removing the feminine nominative singular ending, okay? Also remember that adjectives, if they are not describing something, a noun that is in the sentence, can be considered substantive, meaning that they take on the substance of a noun. If you have a substantive adjective, you just add the word man, woman, or thing depending on the gender of the adjective, okay? So if I said bonus, that would be a good man. Bona, a good woman, or bonum, a good thing. First, second declension adjectives obviously follow the first, second declensions. Masculine follows the second declension masculine, feminine follows the first declension, and neuter follows the second declension neuter. There are also third declension adjectives. What you need to know about third declension adjectives: first, the nominative can have three distinct endings based on the genders. It can have a masculine, feminine, and neuter nominative singular ending, distinct from each other. But after that, the endings follow the same third declension I stem pattern. Notice that third declension adjectives always have a long I in their ablative singular. Okay, so that short E ending in the ablative is only used for nouns. Never for adjectives. Adjectives always have that long I.